Here's a few here's a few quandaries for you. I don't know why it does that. Amazing. When is a special not a special? When does hype and hyperbole result in a damp squib? When does a program content literally echo your feelings? A big empty space full of nothing. When it's called Blue Yonder, I would contest. I mean, we expected Susan, the old doctors. It had been a closed set, lots of secrets, no discussion of the episode, redacted trailers. All for what? A wide blue nothing. Looking out at the endless nothing of space in one of those scenes was exactly how I felt for the whole hour. But we do aim to offer common sense, a sense of humour, and a sense of Doctor Who perspective on whatever topic or story we do. So please do subscribe, switch on those notifications, get that bell going, give us a like, and we'll give you a voice and some entertainment, some respectful debate, and some lively chat and fun about all aspects of this story. This is the Senssphere. Let's bring on the Senssphere inspectors, John, Michelle, timescales. So I always forget to kind of minimize myself. So I'll just bring everybody on very quickly. And we've got our same old thing. So hi, everybody. In Britain, it's just good. Well, it's good afternoon, late afternoon. And in America, it's various times. It's a bit like streaming. So hello, everybody. And I can see Elsie's there as well.
Elsie's here too, yes.
Hi, Elsie.
Hello, what do you see? Look, Elsie's got you.
Well,
she's thinking about it.
We've obviously got Right Humdinger today. Now, remember, you know what I'm like with these things. I do like to know whether you are up to this. I do like to know whether I've got decent panelists who know their Doctor Who. So I like to do a kind of galactic MOT on them. I don't know if the Americans will get that either. It's when we do a kind of test on the building, the car. So we're going to do a galactic MOT to see whether you're decent core Doctor Who fans or whether you fail and you may be dumped in the emptiness of space or left to weed in Donna's back garden, which is a fate worse than death because I don't think she mows. Right. Okay. With the test about to embark, here we go. Now, who wants to go first? Noel knows it can be tricky, this. And by the way, I'll just remind everybody just before we start that this is where we're standing at the moment. These are the scores on the sarcophagus doors. John's got 4 points, Michelle 2, Noel naught, and Noel will be really happy that Timescales has appeared because he's on naught as well because he didn't entertain and do it last time. So there you go. We're fighting to get in the sarcophagus. I'm not quite sure. So there you go.
He really does know how to make you feel bad, doesn't he?
Classic teacher, Noel. Classic teacher.
Oh, there's Elsie.
So
can I keep asking? Is there a prize?
Yeah.
There's interference again. I can't hear. It's such a shame.
Pride.
Here we go. Right, I'm going to ask timescales first. We're going to go around. Here we go. Timescales. This is for 3 points. You need to guess which underwhelming Doctor Who story this is from. Now, remember, I'm really going for underwhelming because I thought Wild Blue Yonder was underwhelming. So have a think. You would get 3 points if you could get this. So have a think. I'll give you a second or two, and then I'll take it over to the panel. So any idea?
The end of the world.
It was worth a try. We'll go for 2 points now.
Pyramids of Mars. Oh, you said underwhelming. Can I take that back? Okay.
You can take that back. Underwhelming.
Okay. Terminus.
Terminus. It's always worth a punt, but no. Let's try another one. So this is now for 1 point timescales. Which underwhelming story for 1 point? And then I will open it up to the panel. Let's see if the thread's got any of them there. So, any ideas, timescales?
No, I'm at a loss for this one. I'm going to have to stay at 0 for now, it looks like.
Well, anybody want to go for it?
The Twin Dilemma?
Well done, Michelle. Well done. Here we go. The Twin Dilemma. Hey. So there you go. 1 juicy point for Michelle there. I'll keep an eye on that one. Okay. So, Michelle, do you want to go next then?
Sure.
Go on then. Here we go.
Like, in hell.
Time flight.
Not time flight, so we'll go for 2 points next.
Oh. World War III.
Well, I'll give you that. It was the first one, Aliens of London. So I'll give you
Okay.
2 points for that. There you go. You can see the spaceship in the corner. There you go. There you go. So Michelle, you've rattled very quickly there to 5 points in total. Noel, I can see Noel is up for this. Are you, Noel?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm
Noel.
looking forward to this.
Yeah, here we go, Noel.
Oh.
You might see some ropes there and stuff like that. And
Underwhelming. Right. It's either. Oh, what was that one? The one with Matt Smith, the blue, the pirate one.
yeah, keep going, keep going.
Something of the blue spot. I can't think of the name of the bleed now.
I know.
Shall we?
I
shall we
know,
give-
I know.
I was just going to say before everyone butts in, shall we give him it because he's onto it, isn't he? He's onto it.
No,
No.
you have to, you know, because I would
it a go.
disagree. I would
Give it-
disagree with that. I'm gonna
it a
say,
shot.
hold on, no, it's still my turn, isn't it? My turn. Don't need anybody to tell me.
Hugh is in the chat. Hugh's in the
Yes.
chat. Hi, Hugh.
Yeah, I'll reference that in a minute. Time scales. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
The Course of the Blue Spot. No.
Look, panel. I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna give him 2 points. Actually, it was 3 points, but is it fair, Noel, if I give you 2 points because it's the black spot?
Yeah, you can't give it to me. You can't give it to me because
There you go. So I'm giving you 2 points.
no,
there.
you can't. You can't give it to me. That's not fair on the others because I didn't get it right. So
I agree.
that's the bottom line. No, I didn't get it right. It's a quiz.
All right.
That's the rules. So I got it wrong the first time. I didn't get the name of the episode right.
Oh,
so
well,
I knew I was
considering-
onto it, but it's a stupid episode anyway.
It's very refreshing to have someone obeying the rules on this show. Really. Well done, Noel.
Oh,
Well done.
just you wait, John.
Yeah, I can just imagine what's coming.
I've been
Well, for like
rehearsing.
the time scales, I actually listened to the directions.
Damn, black spot.
It's because Noel's a Man U fan and they've won and everything. He's in a good mood. So, right, okay, John, are you up for this then? Because as you know, it's friendly fire for me, and I never hold
Yeah, of course
grudges.
it will be. Yeah, you know what?
There you go.
Oh, yeah, thanks for that.
3 points.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, is that black and white or color?
Oh, here we go. Well, it's what you can see.
Well, I'm seeing black, white, and grey, so it's hard to tell.
It is a colour photograph, believe it or not. Yeah.
It is a color photograph. Oh no, I don't know.
So you want to go for one more go at the moment for 2 points?
Yes, please. Are you taking the mick?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I don't know.
Okay, that's music to my ears.
Wow,
next
this is harsh. This is
You really,
harsh.
listen, this is ridiculous. This is just an attempt to thwart my lead in this. Absolutely,
Wow.
you're thwarting me.
last chance then. Anybody
puppets
from
on.
the panel?
Get the puppets on.
No clue.
I was going to say the impossible astronaut, just as a guess, because it looks. A bit
I
like
don't even know
space suit.
what that is a picture of. Oh, you bum.
Oh.
Well, I always say you are a sensorite, so I thought you'd get that one. But anyway, there you go. No points then. No
Wow.
I'm a sensorite. I'm the only one that can wear skin tight clothing like that. You're probably right.
Well, so there you go. That was not too hot to trot.
Hold
was it,
on, just
Michelle?
before we carry on, that was
Yes.
a deliberate attempt to get me from top down there.
Well, I've got every trick in the book at the moment.
That was
I'm trying
payback.
here.
That was payback for last week. Absolutely. It was.
Don't worry, John. Next week we'll clear up.
There's more.
Next week I'm going to appear from behind them.
Oh. Well, we'll
Not
see
in
how
a good
that
way.
we'll see how that goes. Hold on, I think there may be. I mean, there may be a space shuttle arriving in a minute because, as Sadako 24 was saying,
Well, get on it.
sorry, Archibald Lazarus said these quizzes make me appreciate William Walkie. I don't know where William Walkie are. I think they've gone on strike. I think they're not working today. They are supposed to be coming on, but I think they may be tired. Oh, hold on. Here's the space dock. Oh, hold on. This is timescales. Don't spoil it. You know this is top-notch model effects, isn't it? This. Oh yeah. Honestly, we're going there. We're going there.
Make it bigger.
I'll get the right one again. Hold on. Right. Okay. Well, come here. Yeah. The space shuttle doesn't land very well half the time. Here we go. Oh God. Yeah. So, as everybody knows, I mean, it's been an open secret for how many months now? Millie Gibson, it looks as though has been sacked. Dan Hadley on Type 40 was revealing that really with his sources. So, we need a new companion in Doctor Who, but equally on top of that, I need companions on this show to help me out. I can't cope with all this, as you well know. So, let's see who's arrived on our space station pod to audition for a companion. Oh, heck, what's this? Let's have a look. Hold on. Who is this? Who is it?
Chameleon?
Hello?
Oh, it's Nobby.
Greetings. I am Chameleon.
Oh,
I am a shapeshifter.
a shapeshifter. You'll be shifting in a minute. This is like you could be quite useful. Doing what? Chameleon was absolutely useless. He couldn't move.
Greetings. I am Chameleon.
And he repeats himself as well.
I am a shapeshifter.
Yeah, you sound like a parrot, a mechanical parrot. Are you from the pirate planet by any chance? I think you're sacked. Goodbye. Don't milk the part. Go on. Just give me. Honestly.
Oh,
Hold on. Yeah, we've.
I see that every expense has been spared.
I know. I don't have a life. So,
That
You don't have a
is-
shower-
that is-
I tell you what,
that is-
something else
that
you
is-
don't have is a shower curtain.
Crimpling the balloon has said about the Patrick Duffy. Right. Who's this one? I wonder if she passes the test. Who's this? Hello?
Hello, Shamaidi.
What? What? Who are you?
I am Rose Noble.
Oh God. Yeah, go on then.
I am better than you all. I am neither female nor male. I am the meta-crisis child.
Oh God, we've got a narcissist. So, is there anything else apart from spouting all that stuff?
I'm as female presenting. I am more than you.
Oh well, if you're more than me, you won't want to be putting up with me and all my foibles. Bye.
I'm
See
Welsh
ya.
presenting as well.
Yeah, we noticed that, and that's another reason you're off. Bye.
Bye.
See ya. That's failed. Last one, because I'm not happy about this. Crimpling to Bloom now thinks we're on doing a version of District Nurse. Hugh, who we'll obviously say hi to in a minute, actually thinks we're doing District. No,
I thought it was Janet Leigh. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's got all this. So, is he coming or is he on strike? Let's have a look. Who's coming in? Here we go. As you know, it's low budget. It's a same blooming puppet. So, hello. Who are you?
Hello. I am Victoria Waterfield.
I nearly panicked then. I thought you were going Welsh again. So, Victoria Waterfield, hello.
Hello.
And how could you help us?
I have no father. He died.
Well, I can't have you in the TARDIS. I mean, I'm not an orphan. Sorry, Adric. Look at Adric.
Can I live with you?
No, I'm sorry. You'd need a guardian. I'm sorry. I did teaching, safeguarding. Sorry, love.
I'm a screamer.
Well, exactly. Right. That's it. No. Bye.
I can be very helpful.
Yeah, and can you be helpful just clearing off now, please? Because I've got a show to do, all right? We're trying to do Wild Blue Yonder.
John,
Yes.
I could help you with Criterion 2, if you like.
Oh. Yeah, you know, what you need
Nasty.
to help me with, young lady, is with the photo competition, which has been fixed against me.
Sorry about that.
Right,
Yes,
off you go now. That's
come,
it. Time for
come
you.
up to Glasgow on your ship. You're aye welcome.
Keep looking for jobs. I'm not getting one on my blooming space station sent for you. I tell you what. So, oh, he does sound effects as well. He'll be making the tea in a minute. Right, so here we go. Let me get myself back to normal there. Right, there we go.
Well,
So
there goes
we've
my career.
this we cobble this together. I have to say, as you can well
Cobble as in cobblers.
right. With no
Brenda,
more
I
ado,
suggest every once in a while going outside and getting some sunlight. I know in England you don't have a lot of that, but a little sunlight every once in a while is good for
well, that's called recycling. That anyway. Burning issues on Wild Blue Yonder. Right, sorry, it's going to keep doing that to your time scales till we have it fixed. So, right, let's start us off. Wild Blue Yonder, you know the score now. This is your main contentious item. And if anybody in the thread says we're getting negative or cynical, I need to look it up because actually we start the show by saying what our main contentious bit was, and then we give a full review of the show using objective criteria that John has been rehearsing. So basically, oh, I'm going to enjoy this show. So,
All right, John, I have your back.
I've got the mute button as well, Noel. So,
you probably find a dagger in it from certain parties.
Right. Before I start, and I think to be fair, and Timescale said, we've got our good friend Hugh who is in the thread there, and it's really good to hear you are recovering, and you said you're hoping to be back soon, and I know you saw our best wishes, and a lot of people in the thread were wishing you good. Well, Hugh, it's great to see you are getting close, and you've got your humour back. I can see, obviously, talking about the puppets. And so, yes, Hugh is back with us, and Hugh hopefully will be properly back with us as soon as he can. So keep looking after yourself, Hugh. We're thinking of you, and thanks for supporting us tonight.
See you soon, Shuggy.
So, Michelle, your contentious issue with Wild Blue Yonder.
I am going to go for the opening for Newton, not for what way you think I may be critical of it, was because the tone of the opening skit did not fit with the tone of the episode. It was a really weird comedy bit for this very serious episode.
Yes, and you know we're going to go into a lot of detail later on, so I appreciate you being concise and just setting us up here on that one. What I will say about this one, because me and John were talking about it, I could say this one. I think I'm going to park some of my objections to this part, partly through what you said, Michelle, that it doesn't fit the rest of the episode. We know it is part of a bigger narrative arc, and we don't know what that solution is. So I'm not going to be triggered. I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to go there because I think RTD wants me to go there. Mavity doesn't exist. Yes, Isaac Newton, I do not recognize, but that must be part of a bigger narrative plot. So I know what you're saying, Michelle, and I do think similarly. Timescales, where would you go with a contentious aspect of this episode?
Well, it was extremely obvious to my wife and I that this was the lowest budget of we hadn't seen the third one yet, but it was the lower budget one. It seems like they spent all of the money on the special effects and the Star Beast. And even while we did get to see the Doctor and Donna running down the largest corridor in history, perhaps, we didn't quite fall for the CGI. So very limited set. And definitely a lower budget than the previous episode.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate you being concise because we will, as you know, Criterion 2, which is where me and Hugh, where me and John tend to agree on lots of things, is
you wouldn't let it go.
no, that's where we do mention, if you want to, the visual effects Criterion 2. So yes, I appreciate what you're saying. I remember people at the time talking about the green screen, and I didn't really notice. I keep looking now, and maybe I'm just not good at noticing it, but maybe other people are better at looking at that. Noel, your contentious item.
I don't know.
See, this one wasn't as bad as the Star Beast, in my opinion, but I'd have to go with the CGI. I mean, the Isaac Newton thing, you can kind of ignore that because we don't know where that's gone. But yeah, I mean, the CGI didn't look as bad as I remember it because I watched it again today. But yeah, you can see in parts where it was absolutely, atrocious. So I'll go with CGI because, I mean, it was just a bar fest for me.
Yeah. And we will look at that. Thanks, Noel. John, your main contentious item?
So unfortunately, this is the problem with going last. It sounds as though you're copying a couple of the panelists, but I agree with Noel and with the timescales about the effects. We had been promised the Doctor Who was going to look better than ever it did. Just for consistency's sake, it doesn't mean a great deal to me that what Doctor Who looks like. Nonetheless, when you're promised it, you're interested in seeing what it looks like. But yeah, CGI was a problem here because it's amazing. You go 50 years back to Underworld and seeing Doctor Who looking a bit ropey with some blue screen or green screen work then. And 50 years on, lots of millions of pounds later, it's still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to just mention things. I won't elaborate yet, but I had a few little things. The presentation of the TARDIS as an entity, I was seeing the TARDIS in a different light. I mean, breathing fire out because she'd spilt coffee on it, and it was breathing out like I was watching Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. That is a real dangerous instrument suddenly, and I always saw the TARDIS as a refuge. The sonic screwdriver usage, the way it was used to key into the TARDIS and switch it on and reboot it. I mean, hello. The skateboarding TARDIS. I mean, this wasn't Doctor Who that I recognised. So I had problems with stuff like that. And obviously the absolute chasm of a plot. That's my starter for 10 on those ones. So you can see, everybody who's watching us, that we have got contentious items and we'll bring them up and persuade everybody about them at the right point. So, to be fair, we do have people thinking we're cynical. Best moment of the episode, timescales. Best moment of the episode, or the best element of it.
Oh boy, you really caught me off guard there.
You have a look, and I'll just read out Sadako 24's here while you have a think.
Okay.
I suppose the non-succateur intro was to try and cover all bases of the specials: contemporary, historical, futuristic, space adventure, then back to contemporary with the bits and bits of historical. Do you know one thing? While timescales is just thinking there, one aspect of, yes, as Michelle said, it didn't fit the narrative yet, and it was a different mood and everything. I didn't like Donna and the Doctor in the tree acting like prats. I didn't like that. Would Donna Noble even think of doing a joke about gravity? I'm not quite sure at all. I just thought that was just so forced.
And the special effects in that scene looked really bad. I mean, I thought the special effects on the spaceship looked wonderful. That right there looked really bad.
Yeah. You felt as though somebody was just pushing the TARDIS backwards and forwards, knocking the tree.
Yeah, but also they're cracking jokes as the TARDIS is on fire. It just doesn't make sense because we have the series ending of the spilling the coffee, and then the shooting flames out of it, and they're standing there cracking jokes with Isaac Newton as there's a chance that they get burned to death.
Yeah, I know it. Timescales. Have you thought of one?
It's hard to put my finger on one single spot. But what comes to mind most is how well David Tennant and Catherine Tate played off of each other. Mm-hmm. There is a spark between those two, which seems as if the time between when they were on TV and now was just seamless. And that's something that kept occurring to me repeatedly throughout the episode, that the spotlight is on those two actors. And I was very impressed with how well they worked together. It seemed very natural. And in a way, to me, it felt like a stage play, just showing just how much two people can do. So it would be the interaction between the two of them that stood out to me. I know you're asking my favorite spot, but that spans throughout the entire episode.
Okay, I won't elaborate. I always do that. I'll jump to John at the other end of my little board here. John.
I was going to say one thing, and I've decided to say another, purely because his name popped up on the screen, and that is the final appearance of the wonderful Bernard Cribbins in Doctor Who, because it suddenly struck me upon watching it that in terms of New Who, the Bernard Cribbins character of Wilfred Mott is probably as important to New Who as the Brigadier or Sir James Smith was to Old Who, in terms of a consistent character that won the love of all the people watching them, and just the ability for him to have a final scene. And for Bernard was obviously very frail at the time, but obviously wanted to take part. And I just feel that proper goodbye to the character, seeing him, being there to see him off was lovely, and just to know that these specials gave us the opportunity to know that he's living with, and we might not like the whole noble temple set up with the 14th Doctor there, but we now know that the Wilfred Mott character has a best pal in the 14th Doctor, and they're out shooting most together, and I think that's rather nice. So yeah, the tribute to Bernard Cribbins, who, as far as I'm concerned, is to New Who what Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart was to Old Who.
Yeah, because I mean, and I'm sure we'll mention it later on when we talk about the episode in its entirety. But you know, he's been around. I mean, this was a great scene, etc. We can talk about some of them, as I'm sure we'll tribute to Bernard Cribbins later. But yeah, I totally take that, Michelle.
I have two parts. One, of course, is Bernard Cribbins at the end, and that was a sweet, and how the Doctor shows his love for him, giving him a hug, calling him, "There's my old soldier," and that affection. And also, I love when the Doctor was comforting Donna, and he kisses her on the hand, and again, is showing love without having to be romantic love.
Yeah,
and that's one thing that I think New Who doesn't always do the best. They'll show romantic love, but showing the love of between two friends or two people who love each other very much, but not in a sexual way.
Yeah, I'm holding myself here. Noel, your best moment.
Keep your private business to yourself.
I would have to agree with John. The best part of this whole episode for me is that little cameo right at the end. Again, I watched it today, and I found myself getting very. I actually had a lump in my throat watching this scene again, knowing what we know now that he's no longer around. So for me, yeah, it was when he saw the Doctor's face, especially like there, when he comes out of the TARDIS, that's when he comes out of the TARDIS, and his face is just, that was us all. I mean, that's just, he is a very important part of New Who. He's been one of these consistent characters throughout, and it was a nice little farewell. I'm pretty sure RTD would have had plenty more planned for him if he was well. But what we got was enough for me to remember him as a person, but also this character. So that interaction there, I've spoke about this. That's when they're up on the space station in the two-parter. That those moments are great moments between Tennant's Doctor and Wilfred, and it was nice that they got to see each other. So that's my favourite moment, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, I take that, and I'll leave that up for a second as well. In loving memory of Bernard Cribbins, a loved actor and a loved character. And he made the reboot Doctor Who in many ways, as John was saying, as the new Lethbridge Stewart of our time, really. I've got two very quick ones. I'm going very quick to move us on. But since we're trying to be positive, I actually thought the moment when the Donna faces her death was one of those moments that actually did capture me and did make me wonder whether they were going to go there, because she acted it so well, and you saw that flame coming down the corridor, and I was more involved than I was watching Adric holding his little kind of beads, as it were. I really did think, oh my God, are they going to kill Donna? And is this why it was a close set? So that got me. It was a major moment, much bigger than the Adric moment. we may talk about how it was resolved, but and the Doctor and the Donna in the TARDIS at the end. Michelle was talking about their bond and their dialogue in the TARDIS at the end. I liked, just like you liked when he held her, and after they'd had a little bit of an argument about who's to blame for the TARDIS disappearing. So yeah, and yes, of course, Wilf. I'm just trying to kind of add other positivity there too. There's a lot of kind of interesting thoughts coming on in the thread. You know, we're going to hit our 3 criteria in a moment, but the first one, which, well, let's have a look. Let me just kind of make space for myself here. I'll sort that out as well. So I thought I'd be more helpful, okay? Because I'm often not. There you go. That was our overall view of the last story. You can still see it on YouTube. We said it needed improvement. We said the giggle was good, and we said that the Church on Ruby Road was good-ish, but needed some improvement. So that's roughly where this Sensoria panel stands overall on our readings. Now, what I want to show you here is criterion 1. So we do try and be objective, and I will say to people in the thread, we aren't going to come here and just say, oh, it's because it's written by so-and-so, there's a certain director. We will judge every episode that we ever pick like this. So the criterion 1 is safeguarding of the program. Now, it can be any of these things. It doesn't have to be all of them, but I know my panelists will have their own bugbears and their own issues about how they're judged. So does it follow canon? Now, I know John sometimes says that doesn't matter, and that's the point. He won't use that one. He might use a different one. So canon, or is the Doctor, Donna, or whoever characterization consistent, and does that work? Is it recognizable Doctor Who? So that's how we're judging it on this one. So who wants to start that part of the discussion off? Because it's open season now. John, I've had you at the back. Second, go on then. You first this time.
For me?
Criterion 1.
Oh, I was dying to get to criterion 2.
I know.
Never mind. Maybe later. Yeah, okay. Now, I'm actually going to surprise you here. This is a story which, as far as I'm concerned, gets better on each rewatch for me. I watched it for the 3rd time for this review, and I surprised myself how much I enjoyed it more when you take away the problem I had with the general effects. The effects are still very good, but just not as good as perhaps we expected. But I thought this was, of the 3 stories, the most traditional of Doctor Who stories in terms of it was trying to scare people. There was some dark moments. There was a particular scene in this where Donna, the first time, is separated from the Doctor. And she's looking up and down corridors, and you're looking into the sort of middle distance of darkness and gloom, and the music fades away, and you're just wondering what's coming at her next. And I thought, that's Doctor Who. That's what you should be doing, getting the little so-and-sos behind the sofa in order to scare them. It doesn't last long, but there are proper moments where they're trying to scare. And I thought that, in terms of adhering to the mythology and the purpose of Doctor Who, it did very, very well with that. I think the characters of Tennant and Tate here, the 14th Doctor, who's basically a redux of the 10th, and Donna Noble, are at their most familiar in this story than they are on the stories either side of it as well. So I think they're very, very consistent. There's also a scene where the bit where Tennant takes the little pieces out and he's playing with them, doing a typically Doctor thing, when he's just before he tastes them. And obviously Catherine Tate is just using her initiative to do what a good actor does and just react to this. And she gives a totally typical Donna response of, what are you up to? What's all this? And I just thought that's 2 actors so very comfortable, and 2 characters obviously very comfortable with each other. Irrespective of what's going around them, they trust each other. They're very much bonded, and they're very much reliant on each other. So although we can pick apart a whole lot of other stuff going on in this, if we choose so to do, I think it's a very traditional Doctor Who story. I think it genuinely scares, it tries to scare and succeeds in places. And I think it's true very much to the original Tennant and Tate combo that we had in the 2008 series, more so than the episodes surrounding it.
Right. So I can see you're going to judge it higher on Criterion 1 at the moment. Since you
Yes.
mentioned the little bits and bobs about you saw quite authentic Tennant and Tate characterization. This came. Let me just throw this in now because I was intrigued by this when I watched David Tennant in this, and he seems to do it more now these days. Look at his mouth when he does certain lines. Do you know who I think I'm watching? I feel as though I'm watching him do an impression of another actor. I found David Tennant sometimes when he does either a humorous line or a line where he's kind of, I'm not sure about that. He does a kind of Bill Nye. I just find it fascinating, you know? It's just one of those things. While you were mentioning that, John, I thought, do you know what? David Tennant as an actor has changed, of course. He's developed. And he's developed a Bill Nye-esque mouth in how he does it. So, Noel, over to you next.
You need, as Michelle said, to get out in the sunlight. Get out.
You know what? I know.
I tell you what, just get out.
Hold on. Let me just cover John with the Criterion. There we go.
Well, I feel all cozy.
So, Noel, on was it recognizable Doctor Who, etc.?
Yeah. Moss, yeah, I agree with everything that John's just said, except I just found it a bar fest.
Oh,
So,
look,
I mean,
I'm gonna
it's
do
an
this now.
improvement on what comes before it and what comes after it. But it's miles short for me still. Yeah, there was a bit of a scare factor, but we've seen it before. I mean, John does bring up the point. You know, it's kind of the David Tennant catch and take trophy thing, the things that we're used to. 60 I'll go into it a bit later on, but no, I just found it boring, to be quite honest with you. There's a bit of a scare factor there. For me, I like the music in this story, actually. I think the music is done very well and adds to certain scenes with the scare factor. I will agree with John, the dialogue between Tennant and Tate is there. There's even the conversations that they're having. And it's very interesting because they keep going back and forth from each scene. Like, so at first I didn't know, when I first seen this episode, I didn't know what was quite going on. And then I clicked it that they were actually doubles. And it was like, you know, they were kind of opening up to each double. Like that's done well, but we've seen all this before. This needed to be something different. And this is what the issue I have. Yeah, it's better than everything else, but this is a 60th anniversary. It needs to be, it wasn't even a 60th anniversary. What am I even calling it a 60th anniversary for? It was 3 specials. Like, it should have been a celebration of 60 years of Doctor Who. But this is the better story out of all of them so far, of everything we've gotten off RTD. So I suppose that's a positive.
Can I come in here, Brendan? No.
Please do.
Not just on that point that Noel mentions. I felt exactly the same way at the time as everybody else did, as Noel outlined there, that it didn't feel as a 60th anniversary special, and particularly at this episode, because so much mystery had been surrounding it, the close set, and we'd been teased quite a lot about what might go on in it. So I think that probably affected my judgment of the story at the time on first viewing, because I felt terribly disappointed and let down that it wasn't what I was expecting. Rather than me judging it and for what it was, I was judging it for what it wasn't. So the repeated viewing things, when I take out, right, it's not the 60th anniversary, it's not the return of Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, it's none of these things. Judge it on what it is. And in doing so, it was a good celebration of the 10th Doctor, 14th Doctor, and my favourite companion, Who, Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate. And on that, it succeeded big time for me because the two of them were able to bat off each other throughout. So when I take out all the paraphernalia surrounding this and the initial disappointment because it wasn't what I wanted it to be, I changed my view in this story.
So as I come to timescales, I just want to say and add to this, because obviously I think this is interesting because some of you are actually indicating that you maybe are going to go a bit higher on your rating. We'll soon find out. I feel low down. It's fascinating. We're going to have an argy-bargy at the end to make an agreement. But I can see...
Never ever would we argue.
I know. yeah, don't look at last shows. We always get on. Real Super Doctor, everything about this episode was a total bore. And I hear what you're saying, John, and I hear what actually Noel and everybody's saying so far. I did find it. I know he was doing this to really push his two actors.
Yeah.
I felt as though I'd seen this kind of plot thing before. I felt
Well, that's true.
anyway. I'm
Yeah.
not going into detail, but at the moment, I'm going to find this fascinating timescales. Where do you stand on? Was this recognizable Doctor Who?
Well, I agree with everything that John said in opening the comments on this. And to be perfectly honest, the first time that I watched this, I was bored by it, and I did not particularly care for it, while at the same time being extremely impressed with the acting. And I think that at some point, normally when there's a new episode of Doctor Who on, I will sit and watch that whole thing and not miss a second. But the first time that I took this one in, I don't think I even stayed in the room to watch every bit of it, because it sort of lost me at some point. After my wife and I had said, "Oh, this is the low budget of the specials," but there's also an external factor that I think comes into play with anyone who loves Doctor Who when they watch a new episode, and that would be the setting that you're in. Such as, are you watching it by yourself? Are you watching it with a friend or loved one? Or are you watching it with a whole group of excited people? So with Star Beast, I had been watching it with a whole group of excited people, friends and family, many of which had never seen Doctor Who before. And we were laughing, and it was a party-like atmosphere. And then going into Wild Blue Yonder, it was just dark, and I really didn't care for it. Now, that was the first viewing. Later, I would say about a week later, I went back and watched it again and really appreciated it so much more on the second watch. And I was again impressed by the acting. And as far as safeguarding Doctor Who, I believe that it absolutely nailed that goal, because I believe that's what these three specials were for. You know, certainly it wasn't cheap to hire David Tennant and Catherine Tate and get them to come film these 3 episodes. That had to be rather expensive. And I believe the reason that was done was an attempt to reignite Doctor Who and excite the audiences and cause a discussion, exactly like what we're doing today. So I believe as far as safeguarding the program, it really did its job. And the acting was so impressive that I got this feeling that I still can't shake to this day, that this is not all we're going to see of David Tennant and Catherine Tate working together on Doctor Who. I think that they may be back.
So as I come, it's an interesting point. I mean, as I come to Michelle, I mean, Real Super Doctor, it pushed the timeless child, enough said. And on Criterion 1, you can go there, Real Super Doctor, because you could say, well, what Flux did and what Timeless Child did, it's pushing down on that. So it's risking canon, and I'm not happy with it. So yes, you are marking the criteria appropriate for you. Michelle, where would you go on this?
It did feel the most Doctor Who that Doctor Who has felt in a long time. It is a mixed bag episode, because again, it's not going to be everyone's a cup of tea, and there was so much hype about it that we were expecting something, because again, it was the specials. It did not feel like a special to me, and I admit that while I liked the episode, I was the most concerned for the show's future after this.
Yeah, I mean, please come in. I'm going to try not to go down the panel all the time, because it's too formalized. And please butt in when you've got something to say, and I'll just keep it compared, so to speak. I on my judgment on it, it was all to do with the TARDIS. You know, it's like the HADS. The HADS is consistent. That HADS was never used apart from in the Crotons, and I loved the HADS in the Crotons when we had the 5 Faces of Doctor Who. Loved it. Loved this little acronym and this whole idea and the way Patrick Troughton described it. And but it didn't come back in the same place, I don't recall, in the Crotons. This one, obviously, later on, it's... God, our new TARDIS is amazing. It never used to know where it was going. It couldn't navigate, and now it can land pitch perfect with seconds to go before an explosion. That kind of thing I get a bit... I take what everybody.
the whole TARDIS thing surprised me because I would have thought that whole business with Dawn and the Doctor would have been an ideal example, an ideal time for the TARDIS to regenerate itself, and we get to see the new console room at that point. So it just seemed a bit strange that we're introduced to the new console room. We're on all of it, and then Donna throws coffee all over the console. The thing blows up, and then it sort of regenerates itself. I don't know what they could have done with their CGI budget because they used it to create a spaceship, but I'm sure they could have created an interior of the TARDIS and then saved the reveal of the new TARDIS to this episode because it seemed to it was odd that we were introduced to the new TARDIS console room, then we blow it up, and then we have the same thing back again at the end. It seemed very messy to me. I would love, for example, to have seen the 13th Doctor's TARDIS being put to the flame and burnt to a crisp in front of us. That would have been lovely.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like in the margin, as I sometimes say, some people have said it's Doctor Who meets Event Horizon, and I get that point, and some said it's Event Horizon meets Midnight, and I get that too. I think it's Doctor Who meets London's Burning. I mean, because every time at the moment, the TARDIS blows up, is on fire, it's becoming tedious. And I have to say it's a death trap. But I'm one of those. Oh, it was great to bring the Hads back. It was a genius little line from RTD to say, oh, well, it may be because it's regenerating itself, the TARDIS, that the buttons switch and it's come back on again. And you think, oh, okay, yeah, that's neat, right in that. And I do take what you say about how we really challenged the Donna and the Doctor. And they were given interesting lines to do, but I can see also in the margin people are saying, but some of the dialogue they said challenged some of the canon. But we've all had a go at that. Now, you know that one of my items to go into it further is the dialogue doctors, and it's been mentioned in the margin, and I'll bring a few points out and I'll see what the panel think of some of the script elements. So here we go. So
Wait, hold on. Was that Grace Brothers at the end?
It is. I know it's very are you being served?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I will be disguising in a way. I'll be covering the panel so we can actually see these scripts. So please join in if you've got any issues, folks. But here's one of the first ones here, and it was near the end when I said I like this scene. Oh, I keep thinking I wish I hadn't done that thing with the salt. What, that bad luck thing? Oh, that was a lie. Normally, except I invoked a superstition at the end of the universe. I could see straight away, and Hugh's gone on it as well. He's gone Willy Wonka on it. This is where we've had severe signposting that the next series is going to be fantasy, absolute utter fantasy, because it's all gobbledygook superstition. We'll have witches next. We'll have broomsticks. We've had goblins. Hello, I hope you like it. It's not my thing. That's the only trouble. So it's going to be hard for me judging the new Doctor Who if it's going to be all fantasy with no rules, because fantasy tends to break many, many rules. Does anyone think, yep, you're on it, Brendan, and I'm happy? Or, yeah, you're on it.
You are probably right, Brendan. I absolutely think you're on the money with this. It's not likely to be correct, but we'll give you this one. But,
yes, I'll let it in.
I think there was a definite signal because they labour the point, and then in the first adventure of the new Doctor, we have goblins and a goblin ship, and we're not explained to who these are. They from the planet Gob or whatever? I don't know. It is pure fantasy, but I'm prepared to sit this back if Doctor Who is competing against the Harry Potter television series, and therefore Russell Davies has decided that has to be fantasy based in order to have a future in this iteration, then fine, we'll judge it on that score. Doctor Who's hovered about that area. The whole of the demons is basically about black magic.
Yeah.
We're just told that black magic is the science of the demons from the planet Deimos, and that covers it, as Terry Sticks used to say, with a line. So it depends on how it's done, how it's handled. It wasn't handled particularly well with the goblins, I have to say. So the jury's out. We'll have to see.
Moffat did it as well. Moffat did fantasy as well. If fantasy is done well within Doctor Who, then we have no issue with it. The problem I have though is that it totally abandons its science fiction part and goes fully into the fantasy to compete with Harry Potter. And why you'd want to compete with Harry Potter in the first place is beyond me.
It ain't going to win.
Because Harry Potter is a very popular franchise.
Yeah.
I know people might have issues with the writer, that's their business. But the bottom line is that franchise is going to do very well. Why
Yes.
would you? Doctor Who's a sci-fi. Just compete with other sci-fi shows. You don't have to try to compete with big shows out there, because if you do, you're going to lose. It's as simple as that. The show is fragile right now. What he should be doing is just concentrating on writing the best version of Doctor Who, whether he believes that's fantasy or not. Then, you know, just do right by the fans and do right by the show. I compete against other shows. I've never got that. Don't. It's in its own little genre. As I said, Doctor Who's unique. That the main character, if the show goes a bit stale, you can get rid of the actor that's playing the character and bring in a new actor to play the character, and it's refreshed. You know, you just need good, solid writing. That's it.
Yeah, can I just say something else again, Brendan? I'm sorry, I don't want to hog the microphone as such, but Noah's absolutely right. You know, why pick a giant in a fight only to lose it? You don't take on Harry Potter and copy that. You're going to come worse off in it. However, it's not the first time that Doctor Who tries to capture the zeitgeist. I mean, the whole of the John Pertwee era is based on what was popular at the time in terms of all those ITC programs, JC King, Department S, and all that sort of stuff going on. And in the mid-70s, Hinchcliffe Holmes captured the moment of, you know, Hammer horror and all that was happening in the cinema.
Yeah.
So Doctor Who is known for jumping on a bandwagon, but obviously Doctor Who does his own thing with it. So that's the reason why I'm prepared to sit back and say, okay, if you decide to go down this particular path, fine, but do it Doctor Who style.
Yeah.
And don't just ape it or copy it.
Yeah.
I agree.
And good fantasy does have rules also. I mean, this is there are rules to the Harry Potter universe, so they need to do it in a Doctor Who like way. But I think this is also opening up for, as I say, it's all a multiverse.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there's lots of dialogue in this, and I think in the thread this was referred to, so I said it's coming. Was it me, or was I Newton hot? He was, wasn't he? He was so hot. Oh, is that what I am now? And then, of course, well, it was never that far from the surface, mate. Well, I'm sorry, I've watched the third, fourth, whatever Doctors. There was no, it was asexual. There was no element of him longing for anybody at all.
Yeah.
So
this is pure indulgence, self-indulgence on the writer's part. No need for that line at all.
Yeah. That's as simple as that. I mean,
yeah,
you can't say any more about it, really. That's just RTD misogyny's art. I mean, I don't really have an issue with this line, to be quite honest with you. I mean, yeah, should it be there? No. But, you know, overall, you got to judge the rest of the dialogue. And the rest of the dialogue, as I said, you know, is pretty good. I just found it, but I just wanted more to happen in it, I suppose, is my only gripe with this. But the dialogue on a whole is actually pretty decent. This is, I think this is kind of nitpicking a bit.
Okay, well, let me play devil's advocate. We've just reviewed last week's Star Beast when we said, and I won't list all the moments, but we listed the pronouns of this, the that, the male presenting. There was a lot of dialogue in that 50-odd minutes that actually did kind of do this, and now we're doing it again. And the scene we're trying to give him a freebie on with the Isaac Newton at the moment. Actually, Noel, if you think about it, am I nitpicking when actually, how many examples have we had in 1.5 episodes so far?
Yeah, but this is toned down. You got to look at the dialogue in the Star Beast compared to this. It was completely toned down. Though, yes, there were 1 or 2 moments in this episode, but overall, RTD did stick to a brief, which was to try scare an audience with the direction of whoever it was. I think it was Jeff Sutton, whatever his name is, who directed this. It was good direction as well. Look, you know me, I'm highly critical of Doctor Who lately, but this is the better of the 3 episodes. But I was just expecting more to happen. And the fact John made a very good point. You know, I was expecting the 60th anniversary celebration. And I suppose maybe
Yeah.
I am judging this episode a little bit harshly because I was expecting them to be a 60th anniversary. I will say, after watching it a second time, I did enjoy it a lot more this time around, but I still had that. It just needed a bit more. See, when I think of New Who now, it is fast paced. You know, sometimes it is slow. Was this the right episode to slow it right down after the first episode? And that's what I found, because the first one is all action packed, high pace, and then the second one, then the tone is completely different. It's brought back down to earth, and it is, as John said, this is probably the closest that we've gotten to a Doctor Who story. It felt like a Doctor Who story.
This is where I'm holding back a bit because we want the show to continue with our conversation, and the judgments will come later. But I just want to bring Garbage in, for example, because I hear a lot of our panel, and they have every right to say this, that they think it was well written overall, and some good bits of dialogue between the Doctor and Donna. I can see some of those parts, and I've actually mentioned some myself. However, I also saw a lot of self-indulgent writing. The gay Doctor, I'm sorry, irrelevant.
Yeah,
And
sorry,
then-
you're right. That was totally self-indulgent. But you've got to remember what Noel said. I think that he really pared it back in this after the disaster of preachiness that was the Star Beast, which just turned me off. He didn't do that. He concentrated on the characters of the Doctor and Donna, giving them a chance to interact with each other in terms of a good story that unpacked itself and did so in a mysterious way, with scares along the way too. And for him to throw that line in, it takes you out of it, because it becomes very much aware of, oh, this is the writer speaking, not the Doctor.
Yeah.
And the very fact that you can take that and edit it out proves the fact there was no call for it to be there at all.
Yeah. I'll keep moving, by the way, everybody. Sorry, Michelle. You can keep talking, Michelle, but I'll show another bit of dialogue if you get my gist.
I think we're a lot of the reasons is we're giving it a pass is that compared to what we saw in the last producers, this is better than anything we saw during the Jodie era. So a lot of us were still shell shocked from the Chibnall era. So is it as good as RTD1? No, but compared to the last 5 years of slop, we'll take it.
Yeah, except, and we did do a show recently on Russell T Davies, and I think we were very fair, but I do see a bit of a difference between his first iteration as showrunner and this one, and I don't think the writing is as good, but I hear what you're saying comparatively. Now, in this one,
everywhere writing has declined, to be honest. So it's not just one indicative one, it's the whole industry as a whole.
Yeah, now I'll rattle through a few of these, and people interject when you can. We've got the Gallifrey mention that, I'm not from Gallifrey anymore, so we're diving down into flux again and helping our mate out. There was the element here, because of the universe is everything, that the concept of an everything having an edge is kind of impossible, but that's the language of 21st century Earth, and you don't know anything yet. I like the Doctor when he's alien. I like the Doctor when he puts humans in their place. I know there may be some message there, but I'll go with that kind of writing. Just show you a few other elements and then bring the panel in. It's funny because I wonder where the TARDIS goes at random. Maybe it lands on some outcrop by the sea, and there's a tribe and they worship it for 100 years, and then they grow and try to burn it. Then they get wise, they preserve it, they build a city around it, till the TARDIS is just a tiny little dot, surrounded by skyscrapers and monorails. Time passes, city falls, it all gets swept away, and there's the TARDIS on its own again. You see, this is what I mean. I am being fair because I do like this type of writing. I do, because this is when I didn't see much of this writing in Classic Who. I didn't. This is when it gets quite interesting. And there's just 2 more slides, and then I'll bring the panel in on anything they want to pick on from what they saw. This idea of the Gallifrey mentioning again, and it's complicated, I don't want to go there. And then, of course, the TARDIS amazingly appears, and the Doctor works it out at the same time that the Hads would just bring him to that point. I don't know. Look, we've got it on record that you've saying RTD is a good writer and has written some good dialogue and some good characterization. I'm also pointing out that I think this is a little bit of a bumpy beast at the moment, because I haven't even started yet, and I think the amount of convenient things that happened, the amount of amazing shortcuts that happened, I'm not even mentioning them yet, and I call that lazy writing. However, we can say both at the same time, can't we? So, just to interject, just to get you really thinking, because if I was a kid watching that episode, and I think I would have been bored if I was a kid, I'll be honest. What I would have liked is Jimbo the robot. I did like Jimbo the robot, which makes me think of. Yep, we've got our good old Time Teaks Roadshow, which, as you know, is there something you'd like to bring back and having who again? So here's a quickie for you all here. Let me just show you. We've got the Mechanoids. Remember them in the 60s? We've got Jimbo the robot. We've got the Quarks from the Dominators. And we've got the Chumbleys from Galaxy 4. Now, I'm just throwing you a range. And I can see Sadako 24, you like Jimbo. I did. I thought, what a great... we need to use him again. Anyway, it's not my round to say that. Just take a look, panel. Who wants to interject? I won't go around the whole panel. Just join in. What would you like to see again? What would you like to see utilized again?
Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Yeah, Jimbo's got my vote.
Jimbo.
Wow. And I know John will be back in a minute, and I'll ask him, garbage.
I'm back.
You're back. Well, go on then. Tell us, John, then. Go on.
Not one of them. None of them. Seriously, they're boring. Every single... I don't like robots.
Did you not like the robots in do you remember Bill Potts' first episode with the doctor? What was the emoji robots? Did you not like them? Because I thought they were good.
Look, the only robots that I like are proper dressed up robots, like the Vok robots and robots of death. But none of those don't do it for me at all. No. Yeah. Take them all from the crusher.
I mean, we know that we're trying to bring the Mechanoids as the Mechanoids were supposed to rival the Daleks, weren't they? Yeah. The Chumbleys were cute. I love the Quarks. I really do love the Quarks. And I know they're very, very Crotonish, really. I love Jimbo. And what a prop. Sorry, I haven't got a slide for this, so I just overlay it. So I'll just take that off. I loved Jimbo. I just thought he was... As a kid, I'd have loved him and I'd have wanted him to enter the TARDIS. He's a kind of R2-D2. I know he doesn't speak or doesn't seem to do anything yet, but my God, when you've made that machine, as in, I know it's a costume, bring it into the series. Now, you said timescales, Jimbo. What could we do with him in the new series?
Bring him into the TARDIS. I absolutely wanted to see that happen. So we were thinking along the same lines there. It would be great. Far superior to Chameleon.
They create an empathy, don't they? I felt sorry for him. He's walking really slowly down a corridor for years. I felt so sorry for him. And then
good for Disney merch, though. If I'm being cynical, they only put that robot in for merchandising maybe later on in the future.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. There wasn't much else in the episode. I know you've...
Well, the thing about that is, why did an ultra-sophisticated space ship require a robot to walk down a corridor to press a button to blow his up?
That's right.
Yes, actually, John, yeah. He's ruined it now.
It was all about the merch.
Oh, you see, John, this is good. This is good. It's a very good point. But John, you're now undermining. You're making a loophole in RTD's good writing here.
No. I am actually, because I'm not going to. While I like the story, I'm not going to put it in any sort of pedestal. But in terms of this aspect of it, it's a nice thing. I just don't like robots, and the inclusion of this thing, as Noel says, is purely with an eye on merchandise.
John, do you like K9?
Yeah, I don't mind K9. I prefer the real thing, though. Here she's here.
No. Like myself, I've got my own little K9 somewhere. Where is he? He's in with his mammy.
Is there an action figure of this available?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not
Timescale
at the moment, but what normally tends to happen is when the first series drops of Shooty's era, then we'll see. There's rumours of all different types of merch, including Beat the Meat.
Yeah.
So if they're doing
I'll
Beat the
do it.
Meat, they're gonna do Jimbo. And I'd buy Jimbo myself now. I know John doesn't like robots. And I will say though, John makes a good point. We've had a lot of robots in Doctor Who lately. You know, it's kind of one of these things where we kind of, it's probably best to leave the robots for a while.
You've got to remember the kids. The kids love this, don't they? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm a big kid on this one. He has that quality of the black hole. Remember the Disney movie, The Black Hole? And you had the what was his name? The broken robot. He was all rusty. Old Bob. Yes, Old Bob. Thanks, puppets. But yeah, he has an essence of the black hole, and I loved that as a kid watching the Black Hole movie. And
Well, I see RTD designed them after himself anyway. I mean,
I like Marvin the Paranoid Android. Get him into Doctor Who.
yeah, well, he was good. He was good. He was good. Okay, then. So let's move us on. I think I can see where most of the panel are going so far. I asked them now for a judgment, but we need to go to our favourite criterion. It's John's favourite, and it's criterion 2. And as as we were both trying to say to each other last week, it's really which version of this you want to pick. This doesn't mean it's a good or bad episode. It just means we're just objectively looking at different criteria to judge the episode. So effective use of resources. Some might go for the visual effects, the direction, the music, set design, costume, the choice of actors, blah, blah, blah. It's up to the panel how they use this one. But, you know, let's have a look. Let me just take that off again. So who would like to start us off on that one?
I can keep it nice and simple. The music for me was top notch, and the acting between David Tennant and Catch Taste. Someone mentioned that on the panel. It was like as if they never left. They stepped seamlessly in. It was like it was just they do have a chemistry. They do have a spark, and that did show though. That did show. I thought this would have fell apart if there wasn't that spark there, but it didn't because of that. So for me, they're the two I'm pleased with. I thought the music was actually sensational in this.
Yes, I wrote down it was like ethereal. It really was like a sci-fi movie soundtrack. And the bit, I don't know about you, Noel, but the bit I found where I really felt that music was actually in the cockpit when they saw the horse captain floating outside, and you got that emptiness of space.
Yeah.
That shot and the music and the pod. Yeah, what was it? They sent out a camera, didn't they? A little drone.
Yes.
And that, although I must admit, RTD, we all know what he likes. This is Impossible Planets Part 2, isn't it? Where he had somebody floating in space, and we had some beautiful music then. But yeah, it was a good shot, and I can't knock it. This was very, very poignant. I agree with you totally on that one, Noel. So let's have a look. Michelle, I know you've been coming at the back of some of these queues at the moment. Michelle, on the use of resources, how do you judge it?
I thought it was excellent. You can also realize that 95% of the episode was really Tennant and Tate acting with themselves. And I thought that was a masterclass in acting, that there's really only 5 actors in this episode. So the way they're able to carry it, talking to themselves, was just, amazing. Sometimes in a scene with them just themselves. That, to me, was well done.
So before I move on, Michelle, since we are on the use of resources from special effects onwards, we're talking about using 2 actors particularly. How did you find we went with the special effects with the actors when, of course, ours went...
I'm more charitable. I thought it looked creepy. I thought the special effects looked well, except for the opening, with them popping out of the TARDIS. That's the only area where I thought that was underused. To me, I thought the special effects looked really good.
I mean, I remember at the time, and I'm not a special effects geek, and I didn't notice the green screen, for example, fringe around Donna. So I didn't notice this, but I heard there was a lot of criticism of this and the arms and that. And I remember watching Doctor Who Unleashed, and you saw the animatronics, and it was amazing to see the puppeteers. But I don't know timescales. Where do you go on this one, for example?
Well, as far as the use of resources, a major resource was overlooked. One of the largest resources in the entire television and film industry, a writer. I don't see why the showrunner has to also be the writer.
Yeah.
But moving beyond that, the music and bringing Murray Gold back, it was very large in making this feel as if Doctor Who was back. Because if you go back to the Jodie Whittaker era, the music in Doctor Who changed so much that it caused it to not feel like Doctor Who. And back during that time, there was a trend in television where music became very bland, quiet, with low tones, where every once in a while somebody would hit a piano key. In fact, Jodie Whittaker even said before the episodes aired that there was a lot of quiet time. And I do not blame the composer, Segun Akinola. I think he is an absolutely excellent talent, and I love his other works. But I believe that the BBC ordered the wrong type of music from Segun. So jumping up to now with these specials and this episode in particular, one reason that it felt so much more like Doctor Who was back was because the music was back. And I believe that music is extremely important in any television and film. If you take Star Wars and get rid of the music of John Williams and put something else in it, it wouldn't be that powerful. If you look at the closing scene of Star Wars, the original episode, try listening to it on mute, and it doesn't feel that powerful. So as far as use of resources, I think that they should have hired a writer instead of having a showrunner fill in as both the writer and the showrunner. I will never understand why that is necessary because there's so much other talent out there. But as far as use of resources, bringing Murray Gold back was one of the best things that they could have done to make it feel and sound like Doctor Who again.
No, I agree with you because I don't know about the panel, but I've got all the soundtracks by Murray Gold. They added so much to each scene. I know there was an argument sometimes that it was too loud, but that's a choice by the director and the production team, isn't it? He does his bit. Obviously, Russell Davies and Murray Gold go all the way back to Queen's Folk, and they know how to work together. Yeah, they do know how to work together. I saw them talking to each other at the BBC concert recently in Wales, and you can see that there's this trust all the time. And in a way, Russell Davies is I mean, it's not the direction choice here. This is the showrunner saying, I am going to choose one of my favorite composers because I can trust him and he's so varied in what he delivers. And yeah, that's a good choice. And that's, that makes the program. To me, it does. It makes scenes. It makes them upsetting. It makes them funny. It makes them, he brings chase sequences alive. I totally agree. Anybody else want to input now on our use of resources? I've got a few to add, but
I've got to say something on this, haven't I? Yeah.
You do.
I've been waiting to hear John's opinion here.
Yeah, I've been waiting forever, but let me just do this one more time so people watching know that what we're judging it normally on.
You mean so I know? That's what you're doing it, so I know.
No.
Listen, hold on.
I'm in the red corner.
Unanimity may well break out here because music is essential to Doctor Who. And I know a lot of people have quibble about the noise level and the volume of music in Doctor Who. Now, I don't mean the noise level, I'm just talking about the amount. But Murray Gold is to Doctor Who what Dudley Simpson was to original Who. It just requires him. Unfortunately, Segun Akinola just really provided, and the timescales is correct, the fashionable thing at the time, which was for ambient noise. And you described it perfectly with a lot of one note and then hitting a piano chord, and that being seen as music. Music, when done properly, punctuates the drama and accelerates your own mood. You feel a build towards something exciting happening, or you feel, in particular, the scene we talked about earlier, looking at the depth and the blackness of space, you get a real sense of being isolated and being at the edge of the universe and it being so empty and so far out. And this is where the writing is good, I think. It's very simple, but very good. When Doctor points to where your home is that way to Donna, I think that's that, with the script, the acting, the music, all complementing each other to to provide a very, very emotive scene. So spot on with doing that. But if I was to choose one of these criteria, I'm going to zone in particularly on Catherine Tate. Doctor Who is very lucky to have an actor of the quality of Catherine Tate as being such an integral part of its now history. Donna Noble is up there with Sarah Jane Smith as one of the absolute go-to companions of showing others how to do it and how to do it properly. And in this, Catherine Tate not only was allowed to show us why we all loved Donna and why we were pleased to see her back, overjoyed in fact to see her back, but it gave her the chance to play a villain as well when she played the foil to the Tennant duplicate doppelganger. And I think, again, she played that very well. And that whole scene where at the end, where she just does it with her face, and you know in an instant the Doctor's made the wrong decision as she enters the TARDIS. She does it perfectly. And the counterbalance to that is this scene, Brenda, that you put up here, where in her reaction, she just shows death's coming, and I'm not going to see my husband, my mother, and in particular, my child again. That's written across her face without her having to say a word of dialogue. And I think that's absolutely perfect. And what that done is cement, for me at least, her place in the pantheon of Doctor Who companions. She will, like Sarah Jane Smith, live forever.
Yeah, and as you know, I listed this as my favourite moment of this episode, and it is Catherine Tate. Runaway Bride was different, but I think they were trying to get the pitch right of that character. But after that, they got it right. And RTD, like we were saying with timescales, is lucky to have somebody like Murray Gold to choose because he's so skilled. He's so lucky he stumbled on, as in, you know, there were loads of people, Kylie Minogue and all the rest of it, but to stumble on an available Catherine Tate, because she can do the humour, she can do serious, she's very nimble with her acting. And I have to say, I thought she carried the humour in this episode brilliantly. I sometimes think David Tennant less so, but I'm not going to nitpick. I think she was on top of her game. I really do.
Can I mention, Brendan, something? I'll just repeat myself from something I said previously. That if we take Russell Davies out of the equation here, in terms of the lines he scripted for her, which were at times were heavy-handed and clumsy, the Alan Z quip just didn't land properly for me. But Catherine Tate herself is working away in terms of her facial reactions to some of the stuff that Tennant's Doctor is doing. And she's doing it totally in character as Donna would. And that's when you know someone knows that character inside out and is delivering. So whatever they paid her, she deserved it because she knows that character inside out. And I think even better than the guy who created the character knows her now. And she just delivers every single time. And I personally would have Donna back today, tomorrow, and forever.
Yeah. Noel, how did you... There was a bit in the dialogue early doors, and I thought, gosh, I didn't... With family viewing, I mean, I'm aware on this channel not to swear at all, really, if we can get away with it. But did you notice when, at the beginning, when the TARDIS took off with the Hads, and of course she said, so that means we're in a hostile situation. Okay, then. So we're going to... And, you know, I'm not going to repeat it, but she swore, didn't she? And I thought, wow, this is... I didn't think I'd hear Doctor Who with swearing in it, really.
That's not really swearing, is it?
No.
Yeah, I'm not going to use it here, but what I'm saying is I'm also reinforcing your point that Donna Noble can go angry, she can go feisty, she can go funny, she can go very upset. I mean, we'll never forget that the start of the meta crisis moment when she realized he was going to take away her memories, and she acted that so phenomenally well. So Noel, where do you stand on the choice of actors here and who delivered the best?
I already answered. I went first.
So he did. Do keep up, dear.
I know. I should make notes. I know. I'm pouring a cup of tea. That's terrible, isn't it?
I don't remember Donna swearing. Now I'm wondering what she said.
She said that a very British word for bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, beginning with A.
Okay.
Yeah.
I missed that.
She says, go and tickets.
Yeah, she said, right, let's go and get, let's sort this out.
Oh, yeah.
It's not really swearing, and I'm sure YouTube wouldn't pull us up for it, but we're not going to take any chances.
Well, Cinnamon agrees with me. We were brought up in Middlesbrough, and it's not a word you'd let your child use. And if this is a family viewing show, interesting. I just found it interesting. That's all.
I don't think that word is used much in the U.S. That could be why I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah, it was just
you have your own equivalent. You use ASS instead of
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, also the amount of swearing that's now allowed on TV has changed dramatically in the last 20 years of Doctor Who has been on. There's words now that they can use.
Right.
Shows-
Even on the news.
shows regularly,
You-
some shows and streamers regularly use the C word, which really surprises me.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay, then. Well, the last criterion, but just so that people, if they've joined us, and I appreciate people who are joining us. I mean, I had some lovely notes the other day from people who just discovered us on our Sunday show. So, yeah, we try and be objective. And this is our third and last criterion for those who are thinking, do you have a life afterwards? We judge on, did the actual episode, did it engage the audience? Now, if you think it's supposed to be a creepy episode, did it creep you out? Did it build suspense? If it's supposed to be one of the more lightweight Doctor Who episodes, did it do its job? Did the jokes land? If it was meant to be, we know from classic, Hinchcliffe time, did it really scare? Did it really kind of, if they were copying a genre, Doctor Who likes to adopt lots of genres. People mention Spyfall, etc. Did it do it? So again, the panelists can pick where they want to go with this, but ultimately, did this episode engage the audience throughout on maybe genre, mood? Did the plot hold together? Was it a decent resolution? And yes, we will talk about the ratings in a minute. But Noel, since I didn't forget that you'd said anything, but what would you like to say about this? Did it hold together, Noel?
See, that's a difficult question. I could answer this in several ways. While it got some of the mood, if that's what you want to call it, right, the dialogue, right, this didn't engage because it was boring, as I said. There's elements to this that I liked, and there's a lot of elements I liked, but there's a lack. I mean, the story is very basic. If we actually break it down, the story is very basic. There's not much really going on if you look in the grand scheme of things compared to the first episode. See, if you're going to go flashbang for the first episode, I don't get the logic of having a second episode that's completely opposite to what happened. I've said this at the time, and I'll say it again. If this was the first episode of the specials, I do believe fans would have liked this a lot more. I still would have found it a little bit too boring, but then you would have got the excitement of the flashbang. I suppose we would have gone into all the other crap that was going on in it, but there was no excitement in this. I didn't really feel like the Doctor and Donna were threatened, to be quite honest with you. It lacked that. So for me, did it do it for me? Better than last week, but still a lot of improvement to actually, for me to say, yeah, this was great. But no, I'm still. I'll have to watch this again. John says it gets better the more you kind of watch it. So I've only seen it twice. The night it aired and today. So I'm judging it on what I've seen on two viewings. And right now I'm not blown away. I was expecting a lot more, but it's not as bad as the Star Beast. But that's not saying much.
Well, I will say I've now watched it twice, and I think I've done it a decent respect there, and I don't think it'll ever happen again in my life. But there you go. I'm giving too much away, as I've said in the thread. Just you wait. I'll out of courtesy let the panelists go first. But I've got things to say about this criterion. John, have you?
Yeah, I think the issue with this story, on the one hand, when we looked at it, we criticised it, as I've said, because it wasn't what we were expecting. So we criticised it for something it wasn't, rather than for something that it was. And then, now we've all seen it, we can come back and sort of, look at it with less jaundiced eyes. I think this was probably the most Doctor Who's been in a long time. And so for that reason, I judge it kindly, but that's the same way as the first thing I talked about, the judging it and what it isn't. And
Yeah.
it's not Chibnall's era, it's not the 13th Doctor's era, so am I judging it more kindly because of that? And the
Yeah.
answer to that is probably yes, because I'm a Doctor Who fan and I want Doctor Who to do well. But having said that, if I just park all of that and say that on my third viewing of this, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed any of the other of the three specials, and indeed more than I enjoyed the Church on Ruby Road,
Yeah.
because I think it ticked more boxes in terms of what Doctor Who should be about. I'm aware of the fact, Brendan, you've obviously got a lot to say about this, but for me, it just is more typically Doctor Who. There was some scares in it. It contained Catherine Tate, whom I love. Tennant, I can take a leave. But interesting, can I just say with one thing? It is a point I meant to raise earlier and didn't. A lot of people say they're tired of Tennant coming back to Doctor Who. But while watching this again, it occurred to me that what Tennant's done now is only equal what Patrick Troughton did, because Patrick Troughton, in fact, he's not equal what Patrick Troughton has done yet, because Patrick Troughton came back in the Three Doctors, the Five Doctors, and then three special episodes, the Two Doctors. Tennant came back in the Day of the Doctor and has done 3 episodes now. So he still hasn't matched Patrick Troughton's return episodes yet. So we'll give him an easy ride on that. That's just a segue off there. But I think I'm going to judge this episode because it's more like Doctor Who than Doctor's been in a long time. And I think what it did very well. And as time grows, I think all of us, and hopefully you too, Brendan, will look back on this a lot more kindly than we're looking at now. I think it will be a grower, and I think it will ultimately become not necessarily a classic, but a very fondly remembered episode.
That's why I'm hesitant to go full in on this, because John is absolutely right. You know, this one's a strange one to judge because, you know, I'm kind of judging it because John is right. I mean, I was expecting the 60th anniversary celebration, and now I've got to kind of frame my mind the way John has, to kind of look at this as just its own thing, and maybe I will enjoy it a little bit better. But I still can't get past the fact that even though it is the closest thing to Doctor Who we got, I was just expecting a little bit more of a spark with this story, and we didn't get it. But overall, I wouldn't be complaining too much, but he has to really up his game.
Well, I know there's Michelle and timescales to come in, but yes, I'm judging it on the criterion I've got, and I'm not going on expectations. I just did that as an introduction, but I will judge it objectively as an external marker of English. I will objectively judge this episode, and all the froth around the specials I couldn't give a damn about. I will judge this. So, Michelle, where would you go on this?
I agree with Archibald Lazarus. He's got a comment. He says, yes, how do you judge it? As an ordinary DW episode or as a special? And that's where I struggle. Do we judge it as a special?
Right.
Ever we judge it as a special, it was a snooze fest. It did nothing to celebrate the 60 years of Doctor Who. The greatest sci-fi show ever to be on TV. Take that, Star Trek. On the other hand, was it ever you just judge it as a regular episode? Yeah, it fits in. To me, it kind of feels like it was the middle of a road episode. You got 12 episodes in a season. This is the middle one. Okay, yeah, hit or miss, whatever. We're going to have something next week to move on. So for me, this is a difficult episode to judge. Is it a good episode? Yeah. Is it great? No. But does it fail? Does it fail as a 60th anniversary special? Yes, it does.
Yeah. I would always say, because we're going to hopefully do many, many more reviews, and those who have joined us may not know we did do the Giggle, and that one has been well and truly kind of reviewed. We've got the Church and Ruby Road there. As I said, we have already discussed the Star Beast. No, we whether they're called specials or not, when we do other ones, when we did the Sontaran one, for example, we will just judge the episodes. So I would say your second point, Michelle, where you just judge it as an episode and does it hold together. Special's a word that's been added for hype and marketing, as we all know. Timescales.
You know, I agree with everything that everyone has said so far. And as I mentioned earlier, this episode did not engage me the first time I saw it. But it could have also had something to do with the setting in which I saw it. It didn't feel interesting. I do remember thinking, wow, it looks like they're not even going to nod to the 60th anniversary. But at the same time, with what John suggested, watching it more than once, I would have to highly suggest that to anyone if you've only seen this once, because the second time I watched it, I really enjoyed the dialogue and the interaction of David Tennant and Catherine Tate. And after the second watch is when I was absolutely 100% convinced that this is not all we're going to see of David Tennant and Catherine Tate working together, that they would be back, that there would be 3 more specials this year, starting around Thanksgiving. And it's looking like my hope for that maybe falling through a little bit, because I think that if that were to happen this year, if there were to be 3 more specials later this year, I think that they probably would have already had to start filming them, in which case someone in Britain would have been walking down the street with a camera and going, oh, wait a second, that's a TARDIS, David Tennant and Catherine Tate. Here, let me take a picture of this and put it on Twitter. So I hope that they come back, because something about their acting in this episode had me totally convinced that this is not all they're going to do together, that they're going to be back. And I guess that remains to be seen.
I think timescales, you're absolutely right. And I think the whole point behind a lot of stuff that was done in these specials was to provide opportunities for the wider universe. One of them being the opportunity to go back and revisit the Tenant Doctor with Donna Noble, Rose Noble, and the rest of the clan. I absolutely think that they have allowed themselves various paths to travel down. Not necessarily that it'll happen, but it's available to them to make it happen if necessary.
I agree, and also I think if you want to go cynical, I think it's a cynical opening in case the Shooty era doesn't hit off.
Yes, that's true.
And I hate that, because I think Shooty deserves his own chance to succeed, and he's already been robbed of a regeneration episode. That was unfair to him in many ways. So I mean, they're not giving this guy a chance to succeed, and then they go, oh well, if it doesn't work out well, it's just multiverse. Oh, if it doesn't work out well, we'll just have another doctor come up and save it.
Yeah, I don't like that. If you're going to throw Shooty into the limelight and give him the most coveted role in British television, then you've got to back him 100%. And I don't feel with this storyline they're backing him 100%.
I think I will share my judgment now, and I'll bring up this point first. Archibald Lazarus. I know what you're saying, and I know Michelle was agreeing with you because she was doing this. But I actually totally disagree with that. As in, I know the specials should be different, and the 5 Doctors was different. The Day of the Doctor was different. Our expectations are different. But what we want to do on this show is just judge each episode the same. That's the point. And, you know, try not to bring more expectations to it. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes the specials, just by their very nature, are cobbled together sometimes. You know, you don't get much characterization. You just get a cameo, and that can be problematic. No, I'm sticking to my criteria. It's not about, no episodes are special. They're all Doctor Who, and they're judged on the same criteria. For example, I'm not going to add a new criteria because it's a special episode. They're all the same. Right, my thoughts, and I'll be concise, but basically I think, and look, I respect the panel, and the Sense Sphere is never an echo chamber. And please subscribe, because if you want a show that doesn't do discussion where we all agree and you could almost predict what we're going to say, please subscribe, because, you know, we need to keep going. I asked the other night about subscriptions and helping us out with the tractators, the dancers, the dancing actors, and saying, you know, if we get to 200 subscribers, our galactic credits might get us a wormery the size of a planet for them. But that's not worked yet. You know, this show offers you no echo chamber, diverse opinion, fandom that can talk to each other, disagree with each other, but stay friends. That's the point of this channel. And we're hoping we're proving this all the time. Because I think I'm going to speak now and the panel won't agree with me. But here we go.
Get on with it.
I thought the episode lacked pace. I therefore think it didn't engage. And the third criterion is about engagement. not boring the class. Yeah, it was holding together with that same unlocking mechanism that we unlocked Donna's brain in the Star Beast. Lots of words done together. You know, RTD does the same repetitive trick. That's not engaging when you've done it too many times. We had a chase sequence after 25 minutes. 25 minutes. The episode was 54. So after 25 minutes, we had some action, then it stopped again. I'll just park that there. And then I mentioned convenient narrative tools. You can have one, sometimes a sonic screwdriver. I'll give RTD this. He made sure the sonic screwdriver was not in this episode. It disappeared with the TARDIS. However, he found loads more. So, for example, we had the convenience that the Doctor and Donna just happened to be stood where he suddenly, having never been on a spaceship before, and he knew nothing about the spaceship, suddenly tapped on the floor and there's a buggy. Genius. Okay, I'll allow one. Convenience number 2. As they're pushed back, the door switches round as they're about to be attacked by these two not things. That to me was Scooby-Doo when the library wall moves. You see, I'm trying to get a nice, decent, family, serious episode, and what I'm getting is Scooby-Doo. So now we've had another convenience. Then we had the convenience that the TARDIS just so happened to land inch perfect before they blew up, within a second. Then we had the sliding ramp in the TARDIS when the non-Donna Noble was about to attack the Doctor, and he suddenly had discovered how the TARDIS worked perfectly, straight away, one button, bang, you're out. Amazing, another convenience. And it just went on like that. Why was the Doctor in this panicked moment when he decided which Donna is the one to save? As soon as he took off, he thought, I need to check arm sizes. Convenient. There were too many convenient pieces of writing for me to go, genius, BAFTA. None of that. So I respectfully disagree with the panel, but that's the whole point. If that's genius writing, I'm sorry, I'm going to finish your show now, and I'm starting to type straight away.
Which one of your panel called it genius writing?
I'm using hyperbole because actually they're good at that. Anyway, I'm going to right. So, as Hugh was saying, because he's mentioned in the dialogue as well, there's a lot of dialogue that is hinting at a resolution of some of the issues between the Doctor and Donna that don't quite follow through and would have been meaningless to a new viewer. And it's a good point, Hugh, because as a standalone episode, not assuming that people are going to watch 8 episodes, 10 episodes, join it all together, stop this indulgent Doctor Who writing, assuming the person will join next week. If you were just judging on that episode, would you tune in next week going, what's all this about the flux and Gallifrey? What's all this stuff about what happened to you before? What's all this? It just goes on and on. Sorry, I think that didn't hold together. And I do think, and some in the thread agree with me, some don't. But it was a boring episode. And I know what you're saying, timescales. And I know John said he's seen it 3 times. I am never going to watch that again because today was enough. I learned nothing new apart from it's boring. Anyway, sermon over. We've now got to somehow come to some sort of agreement. But first of all, it's important because Noel, and as you know, problem being your friend Lee, when we talked about the ratings, there was an interesting point, wasn't there, Noel? So I'll just kind of get this going. Everything seems to repeat itself twice now. That's not me, you know. I do know how to do this show now, but yeah, that seems to do it. So, reminder, we do Sundays at 7 and we do Tuesdays at 4. That's where you find the Sense Sphere if you want to tune in. I've mentioned the subscriptions. I'm not going there again. I got it in the wrong place. Now, I do need to actually talk about the ratings, of course, because you might remember, Noel, when you had Problem Being on and he looked at the figures very closely because there were some strange things that happened with the Wild Blue Yonder episode, weren't there? Let me put them up first. So first of all, 7.61 consolidated. Overnight, it was 5.08. And then, of course, you get a vibe of how it did on the night compared to other programs. Peak of over 6.3 million. That's 41% of the available audience. and that's 1.6 million more than the BBC's normal slot. You got the review element there. But the intriguing bit was, and I just want to put it in context, and I will come to Noel first. That's obviously Jodie Whittaker's last year, and you can see how this does sit better, let's be fair, and then how she was received. And then Russell Davies later on was tweeting this, saying that it's now got 9 million, and I think that was after 4 weeks, and he was cheered about that. Now, it's got audience appreciation, because I know John normally asks me about this, so it's dipped a bit. So it's interesting that you preferred this to Star Beast, but the general public said this was a bit of a dip. Now, 7.14 for this episode overall, and let me just pull it in, because I've said the wrong thing there. Sorry, I'm getting to it. Can you see that one? You remember talking about this, Noel, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, if everyone can see, it says 6.9 million there. Go on, Noel, you join in, because you know the facts here.
Right, so what's basically happened is when the second episode dropped, and then when the consolidated figures were due, there was a delay of 3 days. And what's happened is, what Problem Being and others have been able to find out, is they've actually fudged the numbers, and they've actually added the extra viewers onto the 7-day consolidated. I think it's a 10 in total now, or 11 days. So it's not a 7-day consolidated figure, it's actually an 11-day consolidated figure. That's that second figure. So they've been fudging the ratings for this particular episode, and that's what started people down a rabbit hole. And then we've just recently found out that Disney Plus have been using bots to promote Doctor Who and other upcoming TV shows that they have coming up. So Disney, whether it's Disney or BBC, fudging the numbers on this, and Lee was the one that actually spotted it and actually put together and realised that they actually added the 3 or 4 days on consolidated figures to boost the numbers. So yeah, you can read what you want into that. Listen, the ratings are down. They are better what the Whittaker era end up, but there's hype on these ratings that it's absolutely fantastic. But the reality is completely a different story. The show is actually struggling at the moment, and now in their wise wisdom, we have recently found out that viewers in the UK and in my country of Ireland will have to wait till 12 a.m. to watch the 2 first episodes of Doctor Who drop of Ncuti Gatwa's 4th season. So in order for us to watch it, we have to stay up till 12 midnight now, because apparently the American and world audience is more important than the British audience. And I think that is the case. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the British viewers have tuned out of Doctor Who. And I think this is a shift in them trying to gather the world audience out there. But what they don't realise is that half of the world doesn't know anything about Doctor Who. This will be a fairly new show for most countries when it is shown. So if you're chasing an audience that isn't there, you're in serious trouble. Your audience that you should try win back is in the UK, and the people that, you know, have had to tolerate and suffer the Chibs and Whittaker era. This is a bad move. Ratings, unfortunately, are reflecting that they can recover. That's the thing.
What's interesting, though, is
just go back to basics, and they can win this audience back over. It's as simple as that.
What's interesting is that the figures compared to other terrestrial TV are still okay. I mean, I have to grant them that. It's just that terrestrial TV is dying. Yeah. I find it interesting that, you know, like Problem Being noticed that the figures had been massaged. But I find it fascinating that you're making a point now, Noel, and I'm interested what Timescales wants to say about this, and then I'll bring the others in, that you've got this idea that if terrestrial TV is flatlining, you know, we can find it's been massaged a bit, it's doing okay, but it's not setting the world on fire. This is why streaming is coming in, isn't it, Timescales? This is why the BBC has decided to adopt a different strategy, isn't it?
Well, I'm still in shock and awe about how you just went off the hook totally with your critical analysis of this episode. That is great, and I agree with almost everything that you said about it. That's really good there, Brendan. As far as streaming, I do want to touch on that, but what Noel said about the bots, the Disney bots, for people that don't know, something happened on Twitter where there were a whole bunch of bots that looked like they were using AI generated comments that were very close to saying the same thing with a whole bunch of fake accounts. And they weren't just promoting Doctor Who, they were promoting a whole bunch of Disney programs. Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't think anybody is ever going to know if Disney really was behind something that stupid other than Twitter and X and their security staff. They would have the IP addresses of where all of those bots came from. And I don't think that there's any way that we can ever prove that it was actually Disney. It could have been somebody doing it as a prank. It could have been somebody doing it as an experiment to see if this is how they could operate a bunch of bots. Or it could have been somebody doing it to try to make Disney look bad as if Disney was actually doing it. So I don't think that we'll ever know. But as far as the ratings, that's something I don't understand, because I don't know if BBC is including terrestrial television views and or streaming, because I don't watch TV myself. And I don't know anybody that, well, my dad does. He still watches it with a television antenna. But I don't know how they're calculating these ratings. Therefore, I can't have any confidence in them, because I don't know where these numbers are coming from.
Time scales. That's why you have the 7 days. So you have the overnight, you have the 7-day consolidated, then you have the plus 28-day, and then you have the audience. So they take all the ratings into account. They are all
okay. Are they adding all of the streamer reviews to the terrestrial TV viewing ratings in that 7 days?
That's what's being claimed, but apparently it's not what they're supposed to be doing. But yeah, that's what's being claimed. That's exactly what they're doing. They're adding those figures onto the consolidated, which they shouldn't be doing, because they're overnights and the consolidated are for TV, and then the rest of them are on the audience appreciation there. That's the index. That's how they're able to judge from the stream. And so as you see, first episode 4 there, and it dropped by 1 for the second episode to 83. Now, if you look at the Whittaker era, it actually dropped quite up and down quite a lot during the Whittaker era. It even dipped for the first time into I think it dipped to 80, 79 at one stage. It dipped very low. Yeah, that's how they judge the stream, and so all the ratings are taken into account. What a friend of mine is saying, has been on the Doctor Who circuit for a long time. He's saying what they're doing is they're actually adding those viewing figures to the consolidated, which they wouldn't be doing. But then when they were called out about it, they literally actually admitted it. They've been doing it for years. Not the case. So
okay, and then Brendan, you asked about streaming, and yes, I do believe that it's obvious that BBC is moving more towards streaming, and I don't think it's to be preferential towards Americans, because 4 o'clock in the afternoon is not ideal for me, which is going to be 6 o'clock in the afternoon in Chicago, which they skipped, and then of course 7 in New York.
That's why I don't actually get this though either. You make a valid point, time scales, because it's the afternoon, late afternoon for some people over stateside. Yeah, so I don't actually get why they changed the time. You know what I mean? They could have kept it at the time and everybody would have got to see it at the same time, because it's airing simultaneously all over the world. Nobody is going. See, that's the thing that everybody is actually messing up here. Everybody will get to see it at the same time. It's just it's strange that they chose 12 midnight here, which means that, you know what I mean? Because kids in the UK now are not going to get to see Doctor Who until the next day. And, you know.
I think there's a problem regarding family fragmentation really here. But can I just say, because I haven't heard John or Michelle's opinion on this, because we obviously did the show on Friday. Please have a look at that when it came in. We've got some interesting points that came out of the streaming saga. We then revisited it on our Sunday show when there's the big cliffhanger debate. But one of our items was about, I mean, the argument is, has Disney won the streaming row, basically, because the American time zones are more kind of privileged than a midnight iteration, as Nola's saying, for the British and Irish. So, John, when, you know, you've seen the news, does it bother you? Are you going to just hide and just wait for the... What about 2 episodes on the first Saturday night? I mean,
look. Okay, here's my opinion for what it's worth. It doesn't matter if you want to watch Doctor Who in its Saturday night slot at 7:00. You can do. If you want to catch Doctor Who on stream, you can do that too, and you can do that at the same time as everybody else can. And get this. If you can't be bothered to stay off Twitter or X or Facebook, that's your problem, not the program's.
John,
hold on, one minute, you ask my opinion. Just wait for it then.
But you're assuming we're all adults.
I don't know whether you're adults, children, people pretending to be children. The point still remains. You can watch it at 7:00 before your revision, or you can catch it on streaming from midnight beyond. Whenever it doesn't really make any difference when it's released on BBC iPlayer. I think something was released on iPlayer at midnight once before Doctor Who. I can't remember what it was, but it's totally irrelevant. I will, because I'm of a certain generation. I will sit down on the Saturday evening before Eurovision and watch Doctor Who and really enjoy it. I'm sure, and I hope. I won't be spoiled because I won't go on social media to allow myself to be spoiled. And if I did do that, it would be my own rotten fault. So get over yourselves. Doctor Who's there to be viewed in whatever platform and whatever way you want to do it. End of tale.
Great point, and Michelle agrees with you. So let me just burst part of the bubble, which is how many of you are parents who are saying they're happy that their child might be up for 2 hours on the first night watching Doctor Who. If it is scary,
that's the point. Hold on. But then you've asked the question. You, the teacher, should know this.
John,
any parent who allows their child to sit at midnight and watch it isn't doing the job as a parent. The job as a parent is
however, John just didn't like the fact that I had to come back.
Let's go back to criteria too.
The point is, John, that not everybody has a family where the kids are in bed and asleep. And a lot of parents will have a major issue, Michelle. Parents of children with an iPhone watching Doctor Who. And may I also say,
an iPhone.
Michelle, listen.
What's that got to do with this program?
No.
It's a British institution. Should the UK not get exclusive to the first 2 episodes before everybody else?
Panel, you're starting to misbehave here. I do let
you're infecting nonsense.
I am letting other people speak, but then I don't get a chance to do more than one sentence. Now, let me explain, because while everybody's going, you are all big people and you can all be very disciplined and you can all be off social media. I thought we were also understanding that Doctor Who was a kid's show too. And the point is, Michelle, I'll come to you. While you're saying streaming, blah, 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 what happens if Doctor Who has a scary episode? The kid watches it at midnight. We don't care? Is that what you're all applauding? Where's the parents?
Okay, parents have to be parents. They don't want their child to watch this, block it, or not allow the child access to a device. This is 2024. People need to figure out, like in the old days, if you kids got too scared of original Doctor Who, what did mom and dad do? They changed the channel. Parents have to parent. It's not Disney. It's not BBC. It's not RTD's a response to know what every child's mindset is and to tailor their show for
created
that.
the temptation. It's
This
created the
is
temptation.
Big
that wasn't
Brother.
there.
This is censorship, and parents have to parent.
Yeah, well, look, me and John as ex-teachers know this fine well. We know what parents should do. We also know what parents don't do.
But I'm sorry, we're not going to, just because some idiot does something, we have enough labels on bottles because someone's an idiot and they do something. I'm sorry, we can't live our whole life with every wrapping every up in bubble.
Absolutely.
I know.
Because people have to have personal responsibility
Yeah.
for their actions.
Yes.
Whenever they don't want their child, and it's very common nowadays for streaming shows to release 2 episodes at a time.
Yes.
That is the world that we're living in. You can watch Doctor Who whatever time you want to. Parents need to control the media that their children receive. If they don't want them to watch the Jinx Monsoon episode, block it.
Michelle, but the thing, you know this, Michelle, and John knows this as well. The parents who block it, the parents who'll have the iPhone downstairs, are the parents who will always try and protect their child. What about the kids who aren't protected? The kids whose parents aren't really that bothered? They're left open to watching fantasy crazy episodes at midnight or 1 a.m. There's no parent. You see, me and John.
No, you made this point.
I don't mean to be
Hold on. Here we go. We're going to go down this again.
Let me just finish
hold on.
I haven't finished the sentence. You've got
Brendan,
to
you have, and I hadn't finished my argument. Listen,
no, yeah, because you have been coming in, but you don't let me finish the context.
But
I was explaining. No, let me finish the context, as I always let you do. I was about to say, no, stop it. That's silly. 70s and 80s Who, you would sit there with your parents in the room. Michelle has just mentioned about switching over. The parents would do that. In what form is that happening at midnight upstairs with the iPhone? Please explain.
Look, this is just an absolute nonsense. You're just conflicting arguments here, just to give a counterbalance.
No.
No, you're interrupting me. Can I finish a sentence?
I'm making an assertion.
Can I finish a sentence?
It's an assertion that you cannot claim. No.
Can I finish a sentence?
Hold on, John. You're making an assertion of what I'm saying when I'm not.
Yeah, and you did with me. So, look.
No. You're making an assertion of something I didn't say.
Will I finish?
Well, just don't make an assertion about what I say.
The point I said what you're doing, you're conflicting an argument with this.
No, I'm making a valid point.
You've interrupted me 4 times now after accusing me of interrupting you.
Valid point.
Can I speak without interruption?
You can, but don't say my argument's concocted.
I said confected, not concocted. Confected, which means confected means it's just confected to create an argument.
There's my point.
At any point now, Doctor Who can be viewed at any point. And way back in the 1980s, Doctor Who could be videoed, and a child could go downstairs and put on a video of a VHS and play it. Are we going to say that was all bad then as well? Technology changes, and adults, as parents, have to take control of what the children can and cannot view. And if you're using that argument as a reason for saying it's a bad idea for Doctor Who to be dropped at 12 o'clock midnight in the UK rather than it's just a complete and utter shambles of an argument, to be honest with you, because parents should be parents, control what their children watch, be there with them if necessary. And that's the beginning and the end of this. And you could apply the argument you just made regarding streaming of Doctor Who with portable televisions which had video cassettes in them that could be viewed by children at all hours of the day and night if parents saw fit to allow them to do that. That's the point. The point is Doctor Who will be viewed by children, by adults at a time and place that they wish to do it, and that's absolutely fine. And if the main argument against this is that they will be spoiled because they're getting it before the Americans or the Australians or whomsoever it is, then the argument is stay off Twitter, stay off Facebook. That's the main bulk of this argument. The sort of rabbit hole you're taking us down there, Brendan, is just exactly that. It's a rabbit hole. It's a conflicted argument.
Okay, and all I'll say is, it's amazing, isn't it, John, in our careers that we never had to deal with anything where parents had been neglectful. But there you go, where parents always did the right thing and kids were always looked after. And of course, when
you're absolutely right about that too. I'm not saying that you're wrong.
Video
correct.
shops in the
You are
1980s.
correct.
Video shops in the
But
1980s.
that's not a problem for Doctor Who.
Let me just finish. Video shops in the 1980s did not give 18 videos to kids because there was a version of censorship going on. Where is that going on in
They gave it to
2024?
adults who, in turn, if they weren't behaving properly, children could access that video. And it's the same thing. Children have phones now, and it's the adult's choice to allow the child to have that phone or tablet in their bedroom at
That
12
doesn't-
o'clock midnight. That's not an argument about Doctor Who dropping on a streaming service, Brendan. That's an argument about parental control over phones and technology.
Except I did use a
That's
word
why
that you
it's
probably.
conflicting.
Except I used a word that you probably missed. I said, now the BBC have created a temptation that was not there before.
I've just outlined to you how it was there before. With
It wasn't.
40 years with VHS. Children could have taken a VHS and played it by themselves without parents seeing them. So it's not a new argument.
Well, we'll see. Timescales, it's fascinating, isn't it? As parents, it's a very tricky one, this, regarding what's the point of any TV program in the future saying this is parent guidance, this is an 18 or a 15, or a parent should be there to see it.
Well, it's
When
not
now-
limited to just Doctor Who. And as far as the video shops renting 18 plus videos to people that were not 18 yet, ours did. So the things that can be found on a phone, there are far worse things that a kid can find on their phone than Doctor Who at midnight. All I'm saying.
Yep, absolutely.
I'd have to agree with that.
I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah.
And the issue is it's almost sounding like you're unhappy that we're expressing a different opinion. You're not going to win us over. We're allowed to have different opinions. We
No,
don't.
Michelle, it wasn't that, Michelle. I was
You're
trying
interrupting me.
to.
Can I finish, or is
Yes. Now you're interrupting again, Brendan.
Well, hold on. While everybody's playing this clever game, when you look the YouTube back, look at how many times I don't interrupt the panelists ever. And then as soon as I was trying to finish an argument, I'm not trying to convince you, Michelle, because again, an assertion was made. That's why I interrupted you, because you made an assertion about me. I wasn't making any assertion. I was making my own argument. People are trying to say I've projected it onto something else. No, I'm making my argument. It's whether people respect it or shout it down. So you were saying, Michelle?
Well, I respect your opinion, and that's all I got to say now.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're not trying to convince each other. It's just I don't ever say anybody's argument's rubbish. If you watch this back, I never dismiss people's arguments. I just make my own. And I think, as we're trying to say on the Sense for You, we're not here to say it's all about you're wrong and you're right.
Brendan, I never said, I think you got hold of the wrong end of the stick. I never once said your argument was concocted, the word you used. I said your argument was confected. In other words, it wasn't appropriate. It had been designed to create a bit of controversy about this. That's what I was alleging.
Yeah,
I
but
have not alleged your argument was rubbish.
Except you were kind of trying to say that my motivation was that. No. I was making a valid point.
Can we now move on? I think we should really move on.
Yeah, well, as long as people are aware, and I'll put it on record, it wasn't confected. I was making my point. There was nothing confected about it at all. Right then, everybody, I'm going to just say goodbye and let's finish. It's 2 hours. We've reached 2 hours. It is important when we discuss Doctor Who. There's an awful lot going on at the moment, from streaming to the content. What's the point of having a program when we talk about pronouns and the choice of them, but if we don't discuss the whole thing about what makes Doctor Who either controversial or valid for actually broadcasting? Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thanks to the stream. As you can see, we've had a lively one. See you again.